What's up, beautiful people? Dr. Joy here. Welcome to the Joy of Living with Dr. Joy. And today we have a really cool guest. But before we get started, we're going to take 3 deep breaths. Are you ready? Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Last one, inhale, exhale. How do you feel? I know I feel great. Okay, I'm going to get right to it because we don't have much time. I want to introduce to you Andy Craig. Andy Craig. And I'm going to read your bio, okay?
Sounds
Because
good to
I don't
me.
want to miss anything. Andy Craig says this: in spite of major challenges and setbacks, he has become highly successful and a top speaker and trainer who has traveled across the United States and knocked the ball out of the park. He says 99% of the time, but I'm going to tell you right off the bat, it's 100% of the time, okay? He does it and he does it perfectly. Andy's primary interests fall in personal development, speaking, and nutrition, and he can train for hours on all topics. Trust and believe he can. All right. So in December of 2022, he was licensed as a Ziglar coach. And then in September 2023, he became a Ziglar Legacy Certified Trainer. And most recently, he was one of only 4 to receive the Ziglar Master Coach. Now, congratulations on that accomplishment,
Thank you.
Andy. He also wrote his new book, Passion, Power, Discover, the 3 indispensable keys to your success. Now, his new message about how to break through limiting beliefs appeals to everyone. So, Andy Craig, I want to welcome you to the Joy of Living with Dr. Joy. Thank you for being my guest today.
Well, it is my pleasure, Dr. Joy. I want to thank you for having me on here.
Yes. And so our topic for everybody, our topic is the power of habit in health and life. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Can you
Let's do
explain
it.
what a habit is and why habits are so powerful?
Absolutely. That's a very key question there, Dr. Joy. Excuse me. Habits are any activity that we do on a unconscious basis. We have literally thousands of them running at all times. And if you think about anything that you do on a repetitive basis, that's what a habit is. We really 95% of what we do on a daily basis, it could even be more than that, is done via habit. We start the process and just let it go there. And habit is so powerful because when you start the process and you actually understand what you're doing, and it's a consciously developed habit, because some habits are unconsciously developed, we just kind of do it. But when
Mhm.
it's a consciously developed habit, it will serve you greatly over the course of time. And when you have enough of these habits going, it'll literally create your destiny. There's a wonderful poem out there that talks about the power of habit. It will either serve you dramatically or it will rule your life. I don't remember all of the poem right now, but you can go and look that one up. But that's the power of habit. It's something that we do repetitively over the course of time that gets ingrained into us, and we don't even think about the fact that we're doing it.
So that's how they're formed then. We just start doing it, or is there a process?
Oh, there's a process. There's absolutely a process on that one. Well, we're talking about healthy living here, so let's talk about exercising, because exercising is a key part of me. This is something that you do on a regular basis, Dr.
An
Joy, because
E
you're
word.
always yes, you're always doing this here. So exercise. For those of you that have trouble exercising, been there, done that, have worn that t-shirt way too many times, it's more challenging to get started. But when it comes to get started, you're literally just picking the idea that you want to do. Now, for myself, I'll just talk about what I did probably about 4 years ago during the shutdown with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I just decided at that particular time that I wanted to start exercising. There's nothing else to do. We couldn't leave our house. we
Right.
couldn't leave our house per se for X period of time. I don't remember how long it was.
Long
And I
time.
just decided, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start exercising. So I did. And I started literally with, it was either 5 or 10 minutes. And when you start these process here, you don't have to go very long. It's just the key of getting it started. So I started exercising for, I think I got a video and it was 10 minutes in length. I think that's what it was. It was a Tony Horton video for 10 minutes.
Mhm.
It was probably what it was that I started. And it was both cardio and it was weightlifting, and not weightlifting, but resistance training, I should say.
Right.
And I started doing that. And over the course of, I'm pretty confident it was 60 days that I started that process. And
Okay.
in that period of time, I probably dropped about 10 pounds. And
So you did it the healthy way, Andy. And I call it the E word, exercise, call it the E word. I have letters for specific words, but what you just described, you talked about a positive habit in your
Mhm.
case, and you described the habit loop. The habit loop, there's four pieces to it. So you had a cue, which was a trigger, right? It
Absolutely.
was the pandemic that forced us to shelter in place for a very long time. And then you also decided that you were going to positively impact your life during that time that we were at home. And you started to do something. So you had a craving, which drives the loop.
Yep.
In your case, your loop was exercising. So you started for 10 minutes.
Yep.
And then the response was positive, and that made it very easy for you to continue on, because a habit, it becomes a habit when you do something for 28 days straight. You did your initial habit, right, for 60 days. So then
Correct.
the fourth component of that habit loop is reward. Your reward was that you felt better about
Absolutely.
yourself. You were probably a better person at home. You were probably a better person to other people that you interacted with. But your reward was your positive, um, your the positive things for yourself
Absolutely.
regarding your health. So, what are some negative habits, and how do they impact our health?
Oh boy. Negative habits can be a whole bunch of stuff there, honestly. The first thing that comes to my mind, I'm going to go to the extreme on this one, is any kind of addiction that we have. And I'm talking about a negative addiction. It could be gambling. It could be any number of other things. I'm just drinking, stuff like that. I'm just going to keep it very general here. And anytime that you do something that could be considered compulsive or could be
Mhm.
considered self-destructive, that's a negative habit pattern. And it has exact same loop that you have there, where you've got your trigger, you perform the process, and there's something that happens at the end of that process that we interpret as reward. It's a dopamine hit is what's happening. And whenever we go through that process, it's self-destructive because it's not producing anything of value for us. But the
Right.
reward at the end of it is a dopamine hit. And it's a chemical in our brain. It's the reward center. And it's a feeling of, I got my little feeling off of that. And that it all depends on the nature of the habit. There's a number of habits that are out there, and I'm just using gambling as the example to use here. You can fill in the blank with whatever it is that you want, because
That's right.
all of us have a negative habit pattern. It could be overeating. I've been there. I went through grief for a period of time, and overeating is a negative habit pattern. Some people take solace in food, and trust me, I was taking solace in food at that particular time, and I was going through grief at that moment, and I told my wife, I'm eating emotionally right now, and I don't care, because I didn't. And I paid the consequences of it. My health got out of control. This was after the whole pandemic factor. I blipped up to 178 pounds at that particular time, which for me, that's pretty heavy.
Right.
And
So how
I
did you
think,
break it? So how did you break it now? So we know that habits, they're good habits, they're bad habits. That same habit loop applies to good habits and bad habits.
yes, absolutely.
You described good habit, you described your bad habit. So now, because I mean, I just saw you a couple days ago. You,
Yeah,
you look great. So how did you break that bad habit?
sure. Nutshell version. My wife is studying regenerative health right now. which is a completely different area of health. She's a doctor. She's an optometrist, an eye doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been in the field for well over 10 years. And she just got introduced to this field of study, and she's going through an entirely new definition of what it looks like to be healthy, in the very same vein as what you're in right now, Dr. Joy. And she's learned about healthy eating. And what we have done is shifted over from what would be considered, there's like 5 levels of eating that she's learned about.
Right.
And we were at like level 2, which most people think that they're eating healthy. We were at like level 2. And she discovered that if you can migrate your way up this pyramid of eating, going primarily to a plant-based diet, I'm not saying exclusively, but primarily plant-based, you're going to receive a whole lot of health benefits. And that's what we did. We've gone primarily plant-based. And part of that process is to eating only fruit in the morning. That's what I do in the morning. I eat only fruit. A little bit later on, defined as anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour later, I'll have a shake, a protein shake. It's pea-based protein. And I should qualify this. There's a lot of people that'll drink a whey-based protein or soy-based protein.
Yeah, no, no, no,
We
no,
don't do that. We
no,
do
no, no.
plant-based because whey is dairy and it's inflammatory in your body. So we've cut out dairy completely, or at
And
least.
some people are allergic to soy. Present person.
Yeah. Yeah. And soy is very bad for men too. It produces way too much estrogen in men. So what you want
Mhm.
is plant-based protein. It can be pea protein, which is primarily what we do. There's also pumpkin seed based and other things like that, but I don't need to go down that rabbit trail right now. Where I'm going is we have that protein shake, and then a little bit later on, I'll have another piece of fruit. A little bit later on, I'll have another protein shake, and then I may have a protein bar in the afternoon, and then in the evening, I'll have a very healthy salad. And that's what I've done for the past probably 3 to 4 months. And as a result of doing that, sugar cravings that I had are gone. I had cravings for a lot of different food. They're gone. And what was really interesting about this, Dr. Joy, is I was weighing myself every week just to see what was happening. And I went from 178 down to 175, down to 170, down to 165. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I've hit the quote goal weight. I'm like, I don't need to lose anymore, but I just kept on getting on. I'm not changing anything, just eating this lifestyle.
Mhm.
Next thing you know, I'm at 160. Oh, all right, cool. Continue the process. Next thing you know, I'm at 155. Really? Okay. 153, 152. And I just weighed last week at 150.
And
I'm
what is
like,
your goal weight, Andy? Now I'm nosy.
what's that?
What is your goal weight? So do
I don't have a goal weight. I'm
okay,
just eating, and I only get on the scale
right.
to see where I am. I don't have a goal weight. The reality is when I get back into the full-on bench press that I haven't started to do just yet, not bench press, weightlifting is what I mean by that.
Yeah.
I want to put on about 10 to 15 pounds of muscle.
So how did you break? So like what are some effective strategies for breaking bad habits if you were coaching somebody?
There's a couple ways that you can do it, but the easiest way that I have found is very, very effective is you can have an accountability partner. First and foremost, you need to have an accountability partner. Could be your coach, it could be someone close to you, whatever the case may be. And one of the most effective ways, and I'm trying to phrase this properly here. This might push the edge for some people, but it's very effective.
That's okay.
And there's actually 2 ways that you can do this here. I'll give it the first way. Uh, I've actually posed this people the questions in seminars that I've done, and I'll ask them, and I'll phrase the question, who did you vote for in the last election? And I'll phrase it this way. I do not care, for the sake of what we're talking about here, I do not care who you voted for. This is just a barometer here. And whoever it is that they voted for and I'm talking president here, whoever
Right.
it is that they voted for in the previous election, say, okay, great. So that means you're for so-and-so and you're against so-and-so. And it doesn't matter right now who the candidates are. It's just the opposite. So that tells me right now that you do not want to see this person get into the White House and say, absolutely not. Okay, great. So then in that case, I'll tell you what, if you do this habit, every time you find yourself doing this habit, you get to send to that individual's presidential election campaign $25 or $100 or whatever it is. And I tell you right now, their response is not only going to be no, but absolutely no on that
Right.
one there. And you'll find them very rapidly saying no to that. No, I am not sending money to that individual right now. And it doesn't matter who it is, because especially in today's climate, we get very polarized with who it is that we want to see or not see in certain offices.
I
Now,
know. So let's bring it back though. So
well,
what is the
here's the
strategy?
other way. I'm gonna give you the other way. The other
Okay.
way, my brother called me up the other day, actually a little bit longer ago than that, and said, "Hey, I want you to hold me accountable in these areas here." And said, instead of me sending money off to a certain campaign, if I don't hit my goal here, or if I do something negative over here, I'm gonna send you $25. It's not the dollar amount. It's his pride getting in the way of sending me, his brother, the money. And that's actually probably the most constructive route. Find someone, if you don't have a sibling, you find someone that you really don't want to send money to. It could be the factor of, if you're married, you don't want to explain to your spouse why it is you're sending money off to this individual over here.
He may say, "Hey, send it to me."
Exactly.
Send
So,
it,
and that's a little bit more constructive way of doing it. It is not necessarily, because depending on the nature of how you feel about a candidate or not feel, that may not be the most constructive way to do it.
Yeah.
Find someone that you can, I do not want to send you money, because I know my brother does not want to send me money. And I've told him, for the sake of your business, I hope I never receive a penny for it. For the sake of my bank account, send it to me all day long.
So it's almost like you have a bet with somebody, bet not
Yeah,
in gambling bet, but you have a bet, you have an accountability partner, and you structure an agreement with that accountability partner that if you don't meet your obligation or you fall off or you're not on track, that you have, so there's got to be trust there, right,
absolutely.
with your accountability partner. And you also have to be vulnerable to let them know that you either stayed on track or didn't stay on track. So
Absolutely.
how can someone start building good habits that stick?
Decide what the habit is. And we'll use exercise as an example, because we've already been on that subject matter there.
Right.
It's going to depend on what it is that you want to do. I've heard individuals talk about, maybe you just need to show up to the gym. Just take a step into the gym. Maybe your first step is to buy a gym membership. Maybe your second step is to work with a personal trainer. It all depends on what it is that you're wanting to do here. Maybe that it's working with you, Dr. Joy, depending on the nature of the coaching that you do there.
That's true.
But sometimes it's called baby steps. Stag it happening. That does habit
Stacking steps.
stacking is what I'm trying to say there.
Mhm.
And it's literally just taking baby steps. Show up to the gym, go into the gym, and maybe you're literally there just to walk into the door. Now, if you walk in the door, more than likely you're going to do something, and maybe you're just there for 5 minutes. But the
Right.
whole purpose of this is, if you can only just show up to the gym, start that process. But the whole purpose of that is just to get into the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe get on a treadmill. Maybe that's your process there. It's just to get on a treadmill, maybe walk for 10 minutes. And then you just start the process from there.
So Andy, I want to share something with you. And I think I might have shared it with you in the process, but the one habit that I started 5,752 days ago
There you
was
go.
writing in a journal, gratitude journal. And
Yes.
I would encourage anybody that's watching this to actually do it. Um, a very dear friend of mine, she's since passed away last year, and I miss her dearly,
Mm.
challenged me. She challenged me because we were entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs way back in long time ago. And she challenged me. She says, "Hey, you know what I want you to do? I want you to write in a gratitude journal each day. Day one, number it. One, the date, the day of the week, and the date, and write why you are grateful to in your higher power. Start with that first sentence, right? And my higher power is God. But whoever it is that's watching this video, try this. Write in your gratitude journal, or you can scribe it on your phone, why you are grateful each day. And I'm going to tell you what that did for me, Andy. I did it for 28 days. It became a habit, and now I'm up to 5,752.
Awesome.
And that made me pivot from always thinking about what's not working to why I'm grateful. So it was a pivot to find your joy, right? Which is the title of
Mhm.
my book, by the
Yeah.
way. So that's a positive habit. So what role does consistency play in forming new habits? I think we could both answer that one.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh,
keep going.
consistency is everything. If you ever break up your habit, you're breaking up the ability for you to perform on it.
Yeah.
And if you go for too long without performing whatever that action is, your habit disappears. And that's the purpose behind habit. Like your habit there of just writing in the journal there, you've been doing it for over 5,000 days there. It's just something that you do. The longer that you do the habit, the longer that you perform that action, the more ingrained it happens to be. Now, keep in mind, I said this before, 95% of all habits that or correction, 95% of what we do throughout a daily basis is done by habit. Only 5% of what we're actually thinking about is
Mm-hmm.
not habit. Think about that.
Mm.
95% of what you do is habit driven, which means most of our life is habit driven.
Yes. True.
So it's that consistency factor, whether it's reading a book, listening to an audio, exercising, saying hi and I love you to your spouse or loved ones, whatever it is, getting up in the morning and going to work or whatever that looks like on the business perspective, being nice to your employees or making those dials or smiling. I've been making those calls to the customers or prospects, whatever that case may be. It's all a matter of habit. And the consistency factor in this is especially with stuff that we hate doing.
Oh, that's called procrastination.
Yes, been
If we
there, done that.
procrastinate.
Yeah, been
Oh
there,
yeah,
done
we've
that.
all done
Yeah,
that.
yeah. You gotta assign that over to habit. The
Right.
reason for that is because if it's something that you really don't like doing, and I'll give you an example on this one here. When my wife and I were first married, I was not working at the time. I'd lost my job and she was working, and I was waiting for her to come on home and cook for us because I wasn't really all that good of a cook, or at least I didn't consider myself that good of a cook. Well, I was looking for a job, couldn't find one, so I just decided I'm home. I might as well cook dinner for us. I started that process. And I have continued that process. I still don't consider myself that good of a cook. I think Michelle would disagree with that, but I don't consider myself that good of a cook. But it's a habit for me
Mhm.
now. And I continue to do it because I have done it for such a long period of time. We've been married for over 10 years.
And you got a reward too. You got a reward because it's something that you didn't like to do. You started doing it, and your reward is that you're
I
pretty good
just
at
do it
it.
now.
You
I
just
don't know that I enjoy it, but I do it now.
mm-hmm.
And that's something to keep in mind when it comes to consistency is you get to the place where you're doing it because you're doing it, and you might eventually enjoy it. And I take that back. I guess I quasi enjoy it. Depends on what it is that I'm cooking. I
So
can't
let's
say
so let's jump into how important is it to start with small changes rather than drastic changes.
that's the key right there. Because if you have too big of a change, let's say you are an hour late on a consistent basis going someplace, and there are people that are an hour late going places,
Mm-hmm.
and you try and say day one, I'm going to be on time from this day forward. If you're already running an hour late, that's going to be a hard thing to go immediately because you've got a habit that's causing you to be late.
So
Make
what would you tell them then? If they're running an
Start
hour
with
late, it's
5 minutes
30 minutes.
earlier, 10 minutes earlier, whatever you can do. Set yourself up, maybe an alarm that says, I got to go now. Alarm on your phone, whatever that looks like. That way you can back yourself up. And also ask yourself, why is it that you're running perpetually late? And I asked that question because there was an individual I heard a story about that started the process. He was consistently late. He started some affirmations and he realized that he was late because he didn't value anyone. He didn't value himself. He had to get real with himself,
Oh,
saying that my time is so valuable, but yours is not. Therefore, I'm going to be late because my time is valuable and yours is not.
oh, but
Once
that's
he made
rude.
that understanding, that revelation, he
Okay.
then kicked into, I will be on time from here forward. because he honored himself and the other individual. So you got to figure out if it's a time factor, why is it that you're running so late?
Right.
And find out what those boundaries are so that you can back yourself up to being on time.
And it could be something real simple, like, he didn't set an alarm.
That too. Yeah. If you're not setting an alarm,
Make that,
done.
pivot and make that little change. So what are the long-term benefits of maintaining good habits in terms of health and overall life satisfaction, Andy?
They're accountable on that one, I would say, especially on when it comes to health. Healthy living, especially when it comes to healthy eating and exercising and things of that nature, there long term, they're incalculable. Is how I would put it there.
Mhm.
Uh,
I would agree.
and you're going to agree with this here. Dis-ease inside the body, 95% of it's diet related. And when we can
Gut
make,
health. Yeah.
yeah, gut health and what we're taking in, especially when you're looking at the standard American diet, the SAD diet, that is leading to 95% of the dis-ease disease. We call it dis-ease
It's
because your
ease.
body's not
That's
at
right.
ease. Your
Hmm.
body's not at ease. It's from your eating choices that you're doing and lack of exercise. You cannot calculate the long-term benefit in terms of how you are going to be living out life when you are taking the right food into your body. I can tell you this from personal experience. When I eliminated, for the most part, meat, I can tell you I feel better in my own physical body
You
by
you
eating
feel lighter,
primarily.
don't you?
What's that?
You feel lighter.
You're absolutely right. I do feel
Mhm.
lighter. And I before I stopped that, I would not have thought that that was a reality. But now I understand it is a reality. I feel better. So when you have that feeling of wholeness in your body and you're moving forward, there, there's really no way to calculate that.
Right. Right. So here's a question, because I'm all about improving one's mental health and helping people reduce their stress levels. That's what I do in my personal coaching, one-on-one coaching with people, and also in group coaching. Yes,
Absolutely.
Dr. Joy does group coaching. So how can habits influence one's mental health and stress levels?
Oh, so huge. Habits in that area are coming down to what is it that you're taking into your eye, taking into your ear, from in terms of what you're reading, what you're
Mhm.
watching on TV, on your phone, what it is that you're listening. There's an old saying that came out in the advent of computers: garbage in, garbage
Habits
out.
out.
Look, am I garbage going into my eyes, going into my ears, reading, watching? Then garbage is going to come out. We got to guard what it is that we're taking in with all diligence.
That's
If you're
right.
taking in positive information, you're going to put out positive information. So you need to have all of that set up so that you're reading a good book. You are listening to something good on audio. And maybe you can't read a good book for whatever reason. Listen to it on an audio situation there.
That's
Figure
true.
out a way to get that information coming into you. I encourage you to both read and listen because there's two different learning modalities.
So you kind of like rolled right into the last question about if you could give one piece of advice to someone struggling to change their habits, what would it be?
Start reading. Start
Start
reading or
reading?
listening to something. Read, I mean, personally, coming from a Christian perspective, I say start reading a Bible.
Yeah.
If you don't have that perspective, that's okay. Start reading a good book. There are a number of different authors out there that are going to help you out. And if you're struggling going with a habit, I'm actually going to recommend that you read Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Okay.
And that's a phenomenal book. A lot of the information we were discussing is mentioned there in that book there. You can either get it on Audible, you can get it on CD, you can get it, I'm sure, on MP3. But get it, listen to it, read it, whatever the case may be. It's going to help you tremendously. And that would be the one place that I would start by helping to form habits is by reading or listening to that book.
Andy, I want to thank you for being a guest. But before we close out, would you please share with viewers and listeners how people can find you?
Absolutely. I've
Okay.
got two main websites that you can go to. As a speaker, you can find out about me at andycraigspeaks.com. From a coaching perspective, I do group coaching as well, business coaching, things of that nature. And you can go to the Andy Craig, that's THE, Andy, ANDY, Craig, CRAIG.com, and learn about my coaching programs there. And if you're just wanting to schedule a time with me so we can figure out what that looks like for you, go click on schedule now and let's talk about this. We can talk for 30 minutes, talk for an hour. It just depends on the situation. I do business coaching. I do group coaching. I do masterminding. I do all that there. And my purpose here is to help you and your team reach the next level. So go to theandycraig.com, click on schedule now, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Andy Craig, thank you very much for being a guest on The Joy of Living with Dr. Joy. And I so appreciate the knowledge that you've sent. I wish you all the success in the world. Continue to soar. Until next time, but before I close out, if you want to follow me, follow Dr. Joy Ohio at Dr. Joy Ohio on Instagram. Follow me on Facebook at Dr. Joy Ohio. Okay, now I'm closing it out. Until next time, be blessed, stay healthy. See